Hello everyone, my name is Felipe and I'm going to present to you the Annotation Visualizer. This is a tool that we're developing to see how code annotations are being distributed in a Java software system. It's still in very early stages of development. However, we can conduct experiments and get some feedback to see how our approach is actually going in the right direction. Alright, so how does the tool work? We need first a Java software system. In this example, we are using 𝗬𝗲𝗄𝗏. 𝗬𝗲𝗄𝗏 is a forum here in Brazil to ask questions and answers, about Q&A about software, mainly in Brazilian Portuguese. So we got the system, the code is open source. We ran our tool, we got some metrics, and then we are drawing the system. This is the system being drawn, being rendered. And since we are interested in seeing code annotations, this is the main information that we use to drive the rendering that we are creating, or we can say the polymetric view that we are creating is mainly driven by code annotations values, right? So let's start seeing some information here. Well, as I said, we need a project to analyze. We are using the 𝗬𝗲𝗄𝗏 project, which is a different project that the ones that you're going to be answering questions about, right? This is the project that I'm using to teach about the tool. So the first thing that the tool does is see every annotation schema being used by the software system under analysis. So if you're not familiar with the definition of annotation schema, we see it as a group of related annotations, and they were defined in the same package by the framework or the tool that created them. Yes, and one important information, this tool, the tool that I'm presenting, we are not interested in seeing the definition or creation of annotations. This is not what we're doing. We are seeing annotations being used by developers in their systems. We are not interested in the creation. Okay, so the first thing we do is scan the project and get all annotation schemas or families that are being used. We display them in a table, and we give a color to them. So for instance, the very famous JavaX persistence group, we give sort of a pink color, and in the table we see 41 annotations in the system, 41 annotations defined in the JavaX persistence is being used. And if you double click here the table, you can see actually what are the annotations and how many are being used. So for instance, the add column annotation is being used 8 times. So this system, the 𝗬𝗲𝗄𝗏 system, uses throughout the project 8 add columns, 6 at ID, 5 generated value, and so forth. And we have other families, the very famous also, the JUnit family. We have, as expected, 53 annotations, and out of 53, 47 is the add test. I think this is no surprise. And the Mockito to mock stuff. The 𝗤𝗲𝗏, of course, is present also with 37 override spread throughout the project. Okay, so we get all the families, and you can also uncheck to sort of see where they are in the system. You can remove all and just select the ones that you want. Beware that when we just sort of not display them, we do not recalculate the size of the circles when you remove. This is a feature that we are still considering adding it. And of course, after the experiments, you are free to comment about the tools and what you feel we should be doing to get it better. Okay, so after we get this information, we use this data to draw the system. And we have 3 different views for the system. The first one is the system view, which is, we can say, the highest abstract level you can get from the system, because all we have here is packages, Java packages, and annotations. Okay, so this outermost dashed line here, and I'm going to click it so you can see where I'm clicking, represents the highest package in the system. In this case is 𝗤𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗏.𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗏. So this is, we can say, the root package of the system. And every other inner dashed line represents an inner package, right? So and this is an inner package over here. You can also zoom in it. I'm going to zoom out. You can also zoom in this package right here. Notice that the name changes here, so that you are aware where you are in the system, on the system. So this package over here is the 𝗤𝗰𝗸𝗴𝗲𝗄 Okay, so you can zoom out, and you can just zoom in packages and see their names and be aware where you are in the system. Okay, so and the colored circles represent schemas, annotation schemas. And in this view, we are only interested in packages and number of occurrences of annotations of a given family. So this big pink circle here, and also notice that when you highlight, when you hover your mouse on the circle, the table gets highlighted, the respective family, and you can see that this is the Java X persistence. Okay, so the radius of this circle is calculated based on the number of annotations inside this package. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom here, and I'm in the 𝗤𝗰𝗸𝗴𝗲𝗄 package, and we have 41. Oh, actually, this is all of them. So every 41 Java X persistence annotations, they are actually in only one package. That would be this one that I just zoomed in. All right, so the bigger the circle, the larger the number, the bigger the number of annotations of that particular family. Okay, so we can see here that Java X persistence is mainly concentrated in this package. I mean, not mainly, but all of them is actually concentrated here. And you can also uncheck it to see maybe if there are any other places. Not in this case. That the arg.JUnit. So we can see that there are some other places with the JUnit. As I said, you can uncheck all, remove all, and only select the JUnit. So every dashed line here represents a different package. So this is a package which is actually inner to this one. Okay, so we have inner packages, which is a normal Java structure. Okay, and you can do that, and you can see these kinds of information for all annotations in packages. Okay, but there's something that you don't have in this view, which is class information. You don't have it. You only have packages and code annotations. Since this is the system view, we are mainly interested in seeing annotations throughout packages. We are still not interested in sort of this middle layer information, which would be classes per package. We don't have that here, but you can't. But you can. So I'm gonna zoom in here. This one, for instance, I'm gonna zoom right over here, which is the 𝗤𝗰𝗸𝗴𝗲𝗄 package. And as I said, you do not see any classes here. All you know is that this package has 41 persistence annotations. It has the label here, number of annotations would be 2 annotations of the java.lang schema, and here we have 8 annotations of the 𝗤𝗰𝗸𝗴𝗲𝗄 family. Okay, if you want to see how these annotations are actually distributed per classes inside this package, you can choose any particular schema and you can click on it. Just click on it and it will change the kind of view that's being displayed. We are still going to be in the same package, 𝗤𝗰𝗸𝗴𝗲𝗄.model, but we're going to change the type of view. So I'm going to click here, and now we are still in the same package, but we now have classes information. And this white background, the white circle represents classes. So in this package, notice again we are still on the same package. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 classes. I'm sorry, 6 classes, and every colored circle is annotations inside the class, or declared configuring elements inside this class. So this class has 2 annotations. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 annotations, and annotations from 3 different schemas. You have the persistence schemas, you have the java.lang schema, and you have the hibernate schema also. Okay, based on the color on the tables. All right, so what is the metric being used here to define the radius of the circle? Since we change views, right? And we also want to change the metric that we are displaying. And the metric used in this view, which is now the package view, is the LOCAD metric. This metric actually tells us how many lines of code, lines of code, was used to write the annotation, to configure the annotation on the element. This one here is quite simple because every circle has the same radius, which means that they all have the same LOCAD value, which is 1, right? If you hover your mouse on the annotation, you can see LOCAD 1, which means that every annotation here uses just a single line of code, which is quite common. So, for instance, both these blue ones here are the override annotation, and they usually you write them in a single line. Let me zoom out so maybe we can see. If you zoom out, you change the views. Let me see if I have other annotations that might have taken more lines of code here. No, not one here. If it's not the case, it's fine. I mean, all of these annotations were using just a single line of code. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Let's go back to the persistence package that we were analyzing. The 𝗤𝗰𝗸𝗴𝗲 𝗩𝗶𝗲𝗄 Okay. So I'm going to click on an annotation, a schema, go back to the package view so we can see annotations distributed by classes. Okay, so okay, this is all good and fine and interesting, but maybe you want to see how the annotations are actually distributed by the code elements inside the class. In this view right here, we do not have this information. All we see is the number of annotations on a class, and of course we can see the lines of code they were used to be written, and we can see families. So for instance, this class over here has 3 different annotation schemes. Okay, but if you want to see how they are actually distributed between the methods and attributes and the class definition itself, you cannot see here this information here. So I'm going to zoom in a class. Just click on the white background to zoom. I just zoomed. I still haven't changed the type of view that I'm in. We are still in the package view. We are in the class, the tag class inside the same package. And if you click on any annotation right here, we are going to change the view. Since this tool is driven by annotations, to change the view that you're in, and not only zoom, to change the view, you need to click on annotations, right? We use annotations to change everything here. So I'm going to click on this annotation, for instance, or the blue one could be, doesn't matter. And now we just change the view. Okay, we're still in the same class, the tag class, but now we can see how these annotations are grouped by code elements, the elements that they are configuring. You can see now that we have sort of a gray background, which is something just to let's say organize and group annotations. Yes, that would be the term, to group the annotations. So we have here 2 annotations. They are grouped together on the same element. We still, just by looking at it, we don't know what element is. We have to hover the mouse over the annotation and we are going to read it. This is a field, and the term field here can be used to be class member of the class or attributes. Okay, so in our label we are using the field, the term field. So this is a field called name. This is a field. The name is ID, and the annotation is also ID. And over here, the annotation is generated value. But they are both configuring the field ID. Okay. Over here too, we have also 2 fields configuring. We have 2 annotations configuring the field. And over here, as you might have expected, since this were the override annotation, it's actually configuring a method, and this the hash code method, and right here is the equals method. And these 3 here that are we could say ungrouped, it means that they are actually configuring the class itself. So these 3, the tag, the entity annotation, the table annotation, and the cache annotation, these 3, they are actually configuring the class, the tag class, tag element, the tag class. And this one is the column annotation, which is configuring a field, which is now it's the name. The name of the field is name also. And the interesting thing here is that we changed the metric. As you can see, the circles now, the colored circles, they have different radius because we are using another metric to yet give another information. And the metric that we're using here is the AA, which means argument in annotations. So when you configure annotations, you can pass arguments or attributes to them, and we are using this value to determine the radius of the circles. So the override is a normal annotation, marker annotation. It has no arguments. That for the AA on the label, you can see it's 0. And the column annotation here, which is larger, it has actually 2 arguments, as you can see on the label. So you can get this information by the size of the circle. You see it's bigger because it has more arguments. Okay. Now this one over here is kind of the middle because it has only one argument, the cache annotation and the table annotation. Okay. How do I get back? You just click out. Just click on the gray area, which is actually the background of our visualization systems. You can just click. Now we are back in the package view. Remember, the package view, you have only annotations per classes. You do not have the information of how they are configuring the elements. And also the metric is different. We are using LOCAD, which means lines of code used to write the annotation. Okay, and if you zoom out again, you go back to the system view and you can do this back and forth. And you can explore the system and find large annotations. You can find most used schemas. You can find how they are distributed, if they are concentrated. You can find how they are configuring specific elements. If there are more annotations on methods or attributes, and so forth. You can do these validations and visualizations checking with our Annotation Visualizer. The tool is open source. I'm going to put the repo link, and it's also deployed on Heroku. However, I'm going to ask to you a little patience because since we are using the free version of Heroku, it might take some time to load the page, maybe 1, 2, 3 minutes, because if no web requests are coming in maybe 30 minutes, the dyno sleeps, and when the dyno is sleeping, you have to access it again. It will receive an request, and then it will wake up. But maybe it can take 2 to 3 minutes. Okay. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy the tool and the experiments in exploring Java systems and annotations and how they are used and distributed in the system. Thank you.